a 22-year-old on the front row, leading the champion to green, and the two-time Scott McLaughlin is in there as well. Let's go. Green flag this time. You bet. Racing at Barber Motor Sports Park, and VK will go down into turn 1 first.
Scott McLaughlin around the outside of Alex Palou as we see him to 3 wide now heading into turn 2.
Good clean up front. Look at Felix Rosenquist in that orange and blue car. The Arrow McLaren SP up over turn 3 and 4, stretching their legs down to turn 5. Key overtaking move, and that's what Palou's trying to do on McLaughlin.
Look at this. Here comes Tatiana Calderon. This is what I was talking about. Look at this. Colton Herta on Grosjean.
Teammate on teammate into turn 1.
Oh!
Herta runs off and loses that battle.
Herta knows that this is the advantage for the red tire now. This is the time to make the move. Here comes the run again on push to pass. Up top, you see Newgarden just got by Calderon, so that's important for his 3-stop strategy.
Oh, that is a big move right there.
That is one of the fastest corners in IndyCar on the circuit for Colton Herta to pull off the outside move on his teammate Romain Grosjean.
Check this out, guys. We're riding on board the Gainbridge Honda with Colton Herta. He had an incident a few moments ago with Jimmy Johnson. Up into turn 16. Looking for the inside run, doing the Joseph Newgarden, little side-to-side contact.
So, in other words, Joseph Newgarden up front right now. He'll have to pit in about 9 laps or so, and then you'll see...
Look out, Marty! Marty, look out! Callum Eilert arguing over the same bit of track space in the museum section, and this unbelievable run has come to an end.
Eilert with the advantage now has perfect track position. It just fired it in too deep.
Guys, it's tough to underestimate, and really, look at Holt. He's Herta trying to He's trying to make the Joseph Newgarden move while defending from Joseph Newgarden. Contact with David Malukas there. Does that open the door for Joseph into turn 1?
Able to dispose of the rookie very effectively. Hinch, watch this. Helio Castro Neves, Jimmy Johnson. This is under review. What went down?
Oh,
or what went around?
Right now, these two drivers, Felix Rosenquist and Colton Herta, they're not looking at their steering wheel, guys. They are just grabbing on for
Here we go, inside,
he goes for it.
It's the Newgarden move by Herta for now a 3rd time. This time on Felix Rosenquist. So clicks up another position, put Colton Herta down now for 9th place. This is Joseph Newgarden. We're on the PPG Chevy and Romain Grosjean. Maybe a slight contact there exiting turn 5. This is coming down towards the museum complex. Grosjean's going to be on the outside here for this. They're wheel to wheel, and Grosjean does what he did yesterday.
That's what Callum Eilert should have done earlier to Helio Castro Neves. Newgarden with the position on the inside. Grosjean goes for a ride, but like the pro that he is, gathers it up. Barely lost, dare I say, a couple tenths of a second.
Let's ride with fast hands, the Ninja Award.
You see the green lights on the side of the dash.
Deep into turn 5. Round the outside of VK. What a move from Pato O'Ward.
And was that the winning move of the race? Brilliant stuff from O'Ward. Absolutely sent it, and it paid off.
This is going to be VK and O'Ward all over again, or will it? Yes, it is. McLaughlin around the outside of Dixon.
And goes a little bit wide. McLaughlin's off.
He got sideways on entry. Lost control. Gets it back again, but Dixon and Pagenaud are gone by. Up ahead, Will Power and Scott Dixon were tangling, but this is what went down. Have a listen.
This is a full send from way too far back. Colton Herta throwing caution to the wind, gets into McLaughlin, then loops it. Luckily doesn't stall. Let's watch the reaction here.
That's his dad, Brian.
Well, look at this.
Talk about a run. Grosjean on the inside of Rahal. Graham gives Romain plenty of room. There's contact.
Oh, Grosjean hits him twice.
I think he aimed for him the second time. That was almost as bad as that Jimmy Johnson pass.
Pato O'Ward, who had a frustrating start to the year here at Barber Motor Sports Park. He's going to win again, but for the first time here, Pato O'Ward.
Second flag, baby.
The Ninja
Nice drive.
is back.
Excellent job. Well deserved.
He wins at Barber Motor Sports Park to keep Chevrolet's amazing run going.
Watch the GMR Grand Prix Saturday, May 14th at 3 p.m. on NBC.
With that, welcome to the Push to Pass podcast, episode 23. Josh, if you can believe that or not, we're going to be previewing the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix that is taking place this weekend at Barber Motor Sports Park there in Alabama. A lot to get to here in the next hour or so. As you've seen, just 1 year ago, it was channel favorite, my favorite to win not only Indy 500 but to win the points championship. Pato Award taking the victory there in 2022, and I know we talked about this a little bit, Josh, off air today. That Pato Award again could be the favorite going into this weekend.
Yep, he definitely could be. He had a rough time in his last race, but I feel like he's going to make a bounce back. But statistically, if he plans on winning this, he's going to have to be probably qualifying in the top three. I know we were going over stats earlier that typically the winner of this race qualifies anywhere from 1 to 3. So hopefully he has a good qualifying effort this coming weekend, and he can get back on the road to winning the NTT IndyCar Championship this year.
Yeah, what you were just alluding to there. Let me see if I can go back through Twitter here earlier today and just touch on a little bit of those stats that you were describing there. But before I get to that, loaded show today. Not only, obviously, like you said, are we going to be bringing you a preview of the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix down there at Barber Motor Sports Park, but we're going to be joined here in about or so by a show favorite, both of ours, obviously. You can hear him as he co-hosts with Kevin Bowen on 93.5 and 7.5, The Fan. And then two, he is turn announcers on IndyCar Radio. Jake Query is going to be joining us. We're going to discuss this past week. We had the first test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, getting ready for the month of May and for the 500. I know Jake was there for the whole first day. We'll talk about that, and then obviously we'll get his thoughts and such on what we're going to see this weekend. And then later in the show, as always, Mike from Burnout Sports, Burnout Bets, is going to be joining us to talk a little bit of the IndyCar gambling side of things and who are some of the favorites, dark horses, and sleepers and potentially drivers to stay away from this weekend as well. But getting back to those little nuggets there, Josh, that you pointed out earlier. And hat tip, I want to give a hat tip on Twitter to Chad Smith at Chad200 on Twitter, where earlier today he put out some 3 key stats that come from Barber Motor Sports Park. Number one, 9 of the last 12 races have been won by the top 3 starters, referring to Scott Dixon. He has 9 podiums. He is the only driver to finish in the top 10 in every race, but believe it or not, has not won or started on the front row of any of those 12 races. And then also, too, Will Power has 2 wins here at Barber Motorsports Park, 9 top 5s, 8 front row starts, and he has led the most laps all time at Barber at 212. And then a couple more here that Chad points out as well. Talking about Scott Dixon adding to this Twitter thread here. Scott Dixon has made the Firestone Fast 6 in 11 of the 12 races, but he has never started on the front row. And then Dixon has started 3rd, 4th, 5th 10 times. And then just to add to this, Scott is the only driver to compete in all 1,051 laps in 12 Barber Motorsports Park races. And Scott Dixon, believe this or not, Josh, Dixon has won at 25 tracks, but none of those wins at those 25 tracks have been at Barber Motorsports Park. So I'm sure Scott Dixon there trying to trying to get off the schneid, as they like to say in the professional sports world. Before we get in and break down, Josh, a little more of this race, let's pull up the 2023 schedule, as right there should be coming up on screen for everyone. As you see right there, April 30th, the end of April. And Josh, we're both excited to see the end of April, because that means one thing and one thing only. It is the calendar is about ready to turn over into the month of May. Taking a preview, as we will here at this is last year's map, actually, of the Honda Indy Grand Prix of Alabama, and they've changed the name this year. As I said, it is the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix. This is going to be a 90-lap race, Josh, 207 miles. For people that are unfamiliar with this motorsports park here, the 2.3-mile permanent road course has 17 flowing turns and features 80 feet of elevation that can change. 80 feet of elevation change, that challenges drivers and engineers. A 45-foot wide racing ribbon also makes it imperative for patience while setting up overtake opportunities. Josh, anything else here as we're looking at the map and talking about the statistics a little bit that you want to add here?
That's an interesting looking course track to me. You know, we were looking at it earlier today on a live view, like a actual picture of it. And if you drove up on it, you wouldn't really know it's a track. You would think it might be where someone was testing, you know, some sports cars, but you wouldn't really think that it was an actual track. That's a huge layout, and there's going to be lots of twists and turns, and hopefully everyone comes out of it healthy and crash free. But I can't imagine that's going to actually happen, because there's so many twists and turns. This track is a monster. So many, not a lot of hairpin turns, but there are going through some of those turns. They are going to be able to pull maybe a G or two. You know, put a lot of force on their bodies. So hopefully this time each driver is got their endurance up and can come and bring their best game.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to watch as you see here up on screen, all of the turns and such. And I would also, too, I know we did this earlier today, and I probably should have put the video up here. Go on YouTube and just type lap Barber Motorsports, because then you'll be able to ride with the driver. I forget which one it is, but just watching them go around this track here, you know, their hands are they're in play at all times, obviously trying to keep the car straight on the track there. But yes, definitely, if you get an opportunity, go check on YouTube or whatever video outlet you use, and just type in Barber Motorsports IndyCar lap and check that out. Let's take a look at the upcoming schedule here for this weekend. We're going to kick things off on Friday, April 28th. That's when the IndyCar is going to be there, have their first practice, get down some rubber on the Motorsports Park complex. That's going to take place at 3:40. And then Saturday, that's when things are really going to ramp up here a little bit. Second practice of the weekend is going to happen at 12 o'clock noon. And then a few hours later, Josh, after all the tune-ups and changes to the cars, setup wise, etc. We're going to have our first round of qualifying at 3 o'clock. And then about 20 minutes later or so, approximately, we're going to have our second round of qualifying. And then that's when we get into the knockout phase here at 3:40, where we have round two, where qualifying dwindles down to that Firestone Fast 6, which will take place at 4 p.m. on Saturday. And then everything's quiet there on the Western Front, as they like to say, until Sunday around noon, when the Indy cars take that final little practice practice there from 12 to 12:30 for a warm-up, and then it's on to the race at 3:15. The green flag drops. Obviously, you can catch it all on Peacock, and then also too you can catch it over there with our friends on IndyCar Radio. So. Josh, anything else here as we look at the practice schedule? The cars are going to be a lot of time on the track, but then also to the engineers, the crews are definitely going to have their hands full too during these sessions to fine tune the car and get it into qualifying trim there for Saturday.
Yep. That's true. All the drivers are gonna have their hands full, but also the engineers, like you said, are gonna have their hands full. Fine tuning the cars, tweaking the engines here. Should we go with these tires, or what tire setup should we go with? I mean, other than that, I don't really have too much to add to it. But I just think that. This is going to be a great race. One to remember. Hopefully we can have a great race and just move on to Indy, because I can't wait. I cannot wait until Indy comes, because it's going to be a fun month of May.
Yes, it absolutely is. But obviously, we have to get through this race this weekend here first. Just taking a look at some of the past winners, as we mentioned there at the top of the show, there, Pato Award back in 2022. Alex Palou actually won this race back in 2021. Takuma Sato in 2019. Joseph Newgarden, a dominant 2-year run from 2018 and 2017. Simon Pagenaud picked up a race win in 2016, and then Joseph Newgarden, again a young Joseph Newgarden in 2015, and then a name that you're going to hear that's going to sound familiar, especially when it comes to the month of May. Ryan Hunter-Reay, 2013, 2014, Will Power, 2012 and 2011, Helio Castroneves. Won the inaugural event in 2010. So definitely a lot of not new faces, but I think familiar faces that we're going to see here, that are past winners that are going to try to try their hand here this weekend at Barber Motor Sports Park. We will again, like I mentioned, we will talk to Jake here in the next few minutes or so. We'll touch on the testing, and then I do have the results from that test session that we'll get to in the news portion of the show. Also, too, I know if you've been paying attention, we've been talking a lot about our driver analyst, who will actually, I have got confirmed, will be back next week, RC Enerson. But Josh, huge congratulations, I think, is going to go out to RC, as it was confirmed this week, and we'll talk more about it in the news part of the show. But it has now been confirmed that RC Enerson is going to be the 34th entry. We've been teasing that. It's been a rumor, but now we can confirm that RC Enerson is going to be that 34th entry into the Indianapolis 500 in just a couple weeks' time. So we'll talk more about that as the show unfolds to the news part as well. And then one more item I want to tease as well. Huge, I think, Josh, and we can talk about this and then talk about more towards the end. But I think what is about to happen to IndyCar this coming Thursday, I think is definitely going to is something that we've been preaching about, getting more eyeballs into this sport. And I do believe, Josh, that the launch of this docu-series between CW Sports and Vice, 100 Days to Indy, I think is the absolute golden ticket to get more eyes into this sport right now.
Definitely. Anytime you can get you can get your product out there on a channel that a lot of people will watch. I know I've watched Vice. They have different things such as Dark Side of the Ring, Dark Side of the Football. I think it's get more eyes out there. I'm hoping, and from the previews, from the trailer, it looks like it's going to be a really great thing, great show. Hopefully more people, even if they're just flipping through and they stop and maybe they see, I know David Letterman's in it. They'll stop and say, well, what's David Letterman talking about? And, they'll stop and watch it. Hoping that it's done well and it brings out the true spirit and sportsmanship of all the drivers, and just how people have fallen in love with this race. David Letterman said when the engines start up, the hair on the back of your neck stands up, you get goosebumps. And the pageantry of just race day, I've been there several times, and just the different things that they do pre-race, from the parades. You got the parade marching bands going around the track, cars, luxury cars going around showing off celebrities. I hope that this 100 days to Indy highlights that and brings more eyeballs onto the sport, and we can have a record-setting attendance and viewership of the race this May.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait to see this series on Thursday. Like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about it, and then also too, as you said, we will show the trailer that you just mentioned with David Letterman, who is, if you don't know, is a car owner actually as well, a part of Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan. So hopefully Dake should be joining us here in just a few minutes. But I want to go back. We were talking about, and you brought up the Nuggets, the statistics that are notes, track notes, whatever you want to say. And I know I said this to you earlier, but people that didn't see this on Twitter, and this is a hat tip to Hickey93 at Hickey93 on Twitter, that with Takuma Sato not racing on Sunday, there are only 3 drivers that have started every single race at Barber. And as I see Jake joining us, and I'm going to bring him into this conversation because I want to see if this guy is as sharp as he makes himself out to be. Jake, I just posed the question here, and I found this on Twitter earlier today. With Takuma Sato not racing on Sunday, there are only 3 drivers who have started every race, Indy race at Barber. Can you name them?
Now, does this include that they would start this year as well?
Yes.
Okay. Elio Castroneves.
Well, no, it'd just be the previous 12. Sorry.
Okay. Elio Castroneves.
No.
He's not one of them.
No, because wasn't that the year that Meyer Shank only did half a season?
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. Okay. This is great radio, I realize, or television. See, they all start to blend together to me, admittedly. Ryan Hunter-Reay. Is that one of them?
No.
All right, give me 2 more guys.
No.
Oh, Will Power? I don't know. So go ahead, hit me.
That's one.
Yeah, so Will Power's one, right?
Scott Dixon, Graham Rahal. Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
Scott
Dixon, obvious.
Scott Dixon, Graham Rahal.
Yeah, I should have gathered. Graham. I should have gotten both of those.
First,
thank you for joining us, Jake. We do love having you on
Jake,
the show.
first and foremost. Jake, first and foremost, again, huge thank you for joining us. I know you were out at testing last week, the whole event. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think, anytime that you have cars on track there, it's pretty cool. It was weird because it feels like May, but it's not May yet. But I think it gives us a pretty good indication just in terms of, I thought the speeds were pretty good. It was good to see that they did all of those laps without any incident. It basically checked off all the boxes, right? You had the rookies getting through rookie orientation and passing through the phases, the veteran refresher course, everybody getting through that. I thought, to be honest with you, one of the storylines was Steph Wilson. I thought he was really good. That team was good. I mean, Steph Wilson and Ryan Hunter-Reay both looked like they were going to have some pretty fast cars. And Wilson kept, I thought, really good lines. Looked like a guy that's been out there a lot, even though obviously he hasn't. And then, quite frankly, then you never know with the bigger teams. It's easy to look into or interpret the speeds and variations, but you don't know what they're working on. I mean, especially in a test as opposed to actual practices. So for me, a situation like that is more about what doesn't happen in a good way, and that is that nobody had any complications. Everybody was able to get out, with the exception of Juncos Hauling and Racing, man. I mean, something's going on between Agustin Canapino and Callum Ilott. Those are two guys that are not on the same page. The team might be, and the team might like Canapino being there, but clearly Callum Ilott doesn't. And Ilott, to me, who's a talented guy, looks like a guy that wanted to explore his options to go elsewhere. He was contractually bound to stay with his team, and looks like he's riding out his time. Talented guy, and could still have some good results, but they struggled for sure. So that if there was one team that was struggling, it would be them.
Yeah, I know when you referenced Juncos Hollander Racing, and I remember the interview that you guys did, Callum Ilott, I think it was Ryan Marine, and what you're referring to there, for people that didn't hear that, obviously you can't see Callum's body language on the radio, but you could definitely in his tone of voice when he was asked about the struggle teammates having, and when he responds saying "tip him," there's a little bit of dysfunction there for sure.
I think part of it, I mean, you're right, and that was the situation. And I think part of it too, if you were going to try to explain for Callum Ilott, it's just the background he comes from. People don't realize that when you come up through the ranks in Europe and through Formula One, in Formula One, your teammate is the number one person that you need to beat because you have totally matching identical equipment. So you want to make sure that you are finishing ahead of your teammate to be able to prove that in a level playing field that you are the more talented of the two. So the whole concept of teamwork and sharing telemetry and sharing data and offering tidbits and advice, that's a foreign concept to Callum Ilott from his background. And, clearly this year, last year he worked on his own. He did a really good job last year. I thought he had a good rookie season, especially considering that, he was a lone bandit. I mean, he didn't have a teammate to for those things to be shared with. So he did a good job. But I can understand where his mindset would be exactly what he said, which is, look, I figured it out. He can figure it out on his own. It's not the best in terms of cohesiveness for a team in IndyCar, but it does run parallel with the way things are done in the background in which Callum Ilott has experience.
Yeah, that's a very valid point, especially him with the background that he has, being, as you said, the lone wolf, and it showed last year with his success, and this year trying to replicate that, and they just haven't quite done that yet. I thought somebody else that stood out. I know this team has struggled through a handful of races. Nice to see Connor Daly at the top as well. Ed Carpenter Racing has struggled immensely, but to see a laps down and where he ended P2 was scheduled calendar.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously that team is, ovals are what they're set up for, right? I mean, we know what it means to Ed Carpenter, and they've always been good on the ovals. I mean, the real struggle for that team clearly is on the road and street courses, whether the setups. One of the things, and it's been a long time, I realize, but going back to backgrounds, Connor Daly came from a background where the way that he raced and his cutting his teeth, so to speak, was in Europe, where setups were not necessarily the same in terms of the feedback given, in terms of the way that he, would have been giving and working with engineers, just a different background. But, that team, obviously, Rinus VK even, who has been really good over the course of his career. He's won races, obviously, at Indianapolis on the road course. But they've struggled in finding speed for sure. But the one area where they have it figured out, and keep in mind, these are essentially the same chassis, the same setups, so they're using the same data as years past. And the one area where that team has found out speed is on the super speedways at Indianapolis. And so that translated well. I think Connor Daly and all three of those, VK will undoubtedly be probably a Fast 9 contender when it comes down to qualifying for the Indianapolis 500 on the oval. And Connor will be right there up front as well. I mean, he's led laps there, obviously. He led more laps than anybody else a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. But so they know their way up front, and I would anticipate that they are one of the teams that will be fast come the 500.
Josh, anything you want to ask Jake pertaining to testing before we move on to Barber this weekend?
What impression did you get from the Andretti team? They were struggling to begin the season, and then then they just had at our last race they just had one heck of a weekend. Do you feel like did it seem like the Andretti team was upbeat and more optimistic than they may have been coming out of the last couple of races before they won and went? I think they went 1-3-4 in the last race, I believe. I may be wrong.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously they were right there, right? I mean, they were really strong. Look, I think the reality is, and yes, everybody, and DeFrancesco wasn't terrible, but everybody else ran up in the top 5. One of the things that Andretti Autosport has always done, and this goes back to when Dario was driving for them, one of the strategies they have, and this is the advantage of obviously being a multi-car team, and I would anticipate the same is going to happen for the 500. I think they're optimistic, Josh, because the reality is they're going to be able to send out all of their cars on all those practice days and do different setups the entire time. And I think that's what they did a little bit in the test. I don't think they were looking for speed as much as just figuring out and getting information on different variations in terms of the way the cars run in traffic, the setup, etc. I would anticipate that Colton Herta and probably Marco Andretti will be the two guys that turn a ton of laps for them. Colton Herta turned a lot of laps for them in the test. But those guys will be the workhorse because of their experience there and just their understanding of those cars that are going out and collecting as much information as they can to then go back, obviously, to the team and say, here's where things stand. Here's what we're doing. So come qualifying, it wouldn't surprise me if they have one or two that are off pace a little bit because they'll probably try some different setups, but they'll be good and they'll have the information. Certainly on race day, I would anticipate that they'll have the proper setups and knowledge to be able to stagger maybe a little bit of the strategies they do and then bring that kind of all together throughout the later stages and later stints of the race.
Okay, one more question. So they tested last week. How much of the data do you think can actually translate into later in May? I mean, last week I know we had a couple of beautiful days, but then towards the end of the week, it started getting a little colder. And as we typically know, on a beautiful May day for the 500, it could get up to 70, 80 degrees. I don't know how hot the track's going to get. Do you think the data that all the teams collect, do you think it translates well into the end of May when they're A, trying to qualify, and B, also on race day?
No, it's a perfectly astute question. And it's one of them that fascinates me as much as anything, because I ask that a lot, right? Is the reality is that of any racetrack that IndyCar runs on, whether it be road, street, ovals, I think a lot would tell you that Indianapolis is the most temperature and heat sensitive, so same thing there, sensitive track of any of them. There are two things I think that come into play at Indy more than anything else. Number one is the heat absorption in different areas of the racetrack in that asphalt, and it getting stuck there and that causing grip to go away a little bit. The other one, which is advantageous for them, that was taking place during the test, is the wind. And in particular in turn 2, if you talk to drivers, they will always tell you that turn 2, the wind is very tricky because of the way the seats are and the grandstands are between the Southeast Vista and then I think it's stand J maybe. I can't remember the name of the stand, but it's lower. So the wind can get in, but then it kind of gets trapped there because of the sweet wall, if you will. So the wind kind of circles and swirls, and it's very tricky. So to be able to go out and turn laps on a windy day, advantageous, because if there's wind at any point during the month of May, they're going to have that telemetry. But the thing that is the most sensitive is the sunlight. You can see it during qualifying. If the cloud cover comes over right when somebody's making a qualifying run, they're going to get better grip and better sensitivity for their car and more speed than the car right before them or right after if that cloud moves and the sun is drenching the track. That sun takes away the grip in those tires, and that costs them even a micro fraction of speed. So the thing about the test and the practice that is so important is that Indianapolis in the month of May, the weather is totally sporadic. It can be nice one day, terrible the next. So you never know what the track conditions are going to be in the most important days, which are qualifying and race day. So you've got to make sure that you have every single I dotted and T crossed in those variables. And I do think it's possible that that kind of a weather will present itself. The law of averages says at some point in May, we're going to see weather like that. And it might be, the 92 race was 58 degrees, I think, when they went to green. So it can happen. I mean, you just never know. So as I always say, man, it wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. So whenever that weather comes, you better make sure that you've got something to prepare yourself for it.
Definitely. Thanks, Jake.
Good stuff. That's why we had you come on to break this all down. But before we get into the month, we have a race this weekend at Barber Motor Sports Park. Pato Award, the defending champion. He's played bridesmaid here the last handful of weeks. Last week. An incident between him and Scott Dixon. Not only did it get bad on the track, but the backlash on social media was something that IndyCar hasn't seen either. Tell us a little bit about what you're thinking, what you're feeling going into Barber this weekend.
Well, first off, I love it. I mean, it's a place that when we first went there, and man, I mean, it makes me feel old when you say only 3 guys have run every race there, right? I mean, it seems to me like it was a year ago when we were there for the first time. And I remember talking to Castro Nevis on pit road about it, and the crowd was massive. And we didn't know how IndyCar would be received in the heart of NASCAR country. And it's been a favorite stop. I mean, when we go in there, it's a great facility. It's beautiful. But, you watch the local news in Birmingham that weekend, and all the coverage is about, it's race weekend and it's Grand Prix weekend. And it's very much on their calendar. And it still is. And they're great fans, and they're very welcoming. And I love going down there. The track itself, originally it was designed essentially as a motorcycle racetrack, so it's very narrow. So there are not a lot of great passing opportunities in the track, but one of them is coming down off of the corkscrew as they go down a huge elevation change. There's a slight straightaway going into turn number 10, and you can kind of make a move there, but the track narrows and has a slight kink. So if you're not careful, you can actually lose the race on that spot and get yourself into the gravel onto the outside. So I think it tempts people. And that's, having the patience through that area is one of the real challenges. I think Joseph Newgarden, Graham Rahal has had some good runs there, but I do think that if you had to pick one, Dixon is always a guy in that circumstance that's really good. Same with Power. And Pato is, I'm telling you, man, Pato's here to stay. Like, Pato is going to be good at every single race we go to every weekend. But I do think that it's probably Newgarden's track because it's close to home for him. He's had success there. I think he really enjoys racing there. And they seem to be off to a really good start just in terms of the cohesiveness they have. Newgarden's really disappointed on what happened at Long Beach, I think, because they made a bad call probably in terms of when they were going to pit and the fuel efficiency that he was able to not get down the stretch of the race where he had to kind of conserve fuel at a time when everybody else was able to go for it. So that hurt him for sure. But, it's going to be fun to watch. The other storyline would be, Kyle Kirkwood coming off of the win at Long Beach, young driver, a lot of promise, finally fulfilling that promise. But is he going to be able to put it together in terms of back-to-back races? That's one of the things as a young driver that's a real test, and one of the things I think will be fun to watch.
You talk some of the drivers to this weekend. You didn't mention who has had consistent finish after consistent current points. Markson, is this a track for him to get another consistent finish? Is that somebody that you see maybe struggle this weekend?
No, he's another one that I think we are going to consistently see run towards the front. You know, the thing about Ericsson to me that is really impressive, and you see this with a lot of drivers, you can tell as they get to know the courses themselves. Ericsson came over, and in that rookie year, you know, he was running like the first half of the year, let's say 14 to 17, you know, race in there. Then the year goes on, and all of a sudden he's running like 10 to 14. And you think, okay, like he's kind of started to figure things out a little bit. Then obviously last year, I mean, a guy that was leading the points for the better part of the year and certainly figured out not only how to run these particular cars and everything that goes into it and the circuits themselves, but I also think just working with and having good chemistry with his engineer, with his team. And, you know, that's obviously a team that knows how to get cars up front and run them there. So the work he's done in terms of, you know, with the team itself and in terms of working with Dario and talking to Dixon and learning everything that he can. He's an experienced guy anyway, who came over with a lot of Formula One experience under his belt. So absolutely Marcus Ericsson. I think there's probably 5, 6 guys that you could look at and say, doesn't matter the track, doesn't matter the conditions, they're going to run up towards the front unless something else becomes a variable against them. And Marcus Ericsson's one of those guys for certain.
Josh, that you want to add here in the next few minutes?
Just wanted to ask Jake about. I've been seeing advertisements for this gold badge series you're doing with the 500. Can you tell me a little bit about that? I haven't been able to watch any of the episodes yet, but I am eagerly awaiting time after I get off here. My son's asleep right now, so I should be able to watch it and see. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to plug that. So the radio station I work for, which is 93.5, 107.5 The Fan here in Indy. The website is 1075thefan.com. You know, when I got hired a year ago, they basically said to me like, hey, you know, what kind of content can you come up with for Indy and just for IMS in general? And I thought, I don't really know. And I said, well, you know what? If you have a bronze badge, you can get like through the garage area. If you have a silver badge, you can go like on pit road. There's no gold badge that takes you everywhere. So I said, why don't we just take a day with the camera crew and I'll let the Speedway know we're coming over and I'll just take people places that they can't normally go, that we're very lucky, and you guys have access to, but I mean, we're very fortunate to have access to a lot of things that it's not lost on me. You know, that place is so special. And there are so many unique areas with great backstories, both historically speaking, areas that the average fan and some of the diehards may be like, yeah, man, I knew some of this stuff. But my goal really is to invite people in that are transcendent or, you know, just an average fan that come out to the race once a year and let them know, like the building they pass 100 times and they've always wondered what it is. Take them inside there, let them see it. See where the radio booth is, you know, where we do the radio broadcast. Like, what's the epicenter booth? Who's in there? What monitor? People ask me all the time, when you're up in your turn, are you looking at a computer screen? I'm like, no, man, it's about as elementary as it gets. So I did a video series where we went up to the broadcast perch in turn 3 to show what the broadcast perch is like and what all's happening from that area. We went into the pagoda. We showed the 9th floor of the pagoda where the security command is and where the booth is, the epicenter for television, all of that stuff. So just kind of a behind the scenes thing. So this year they asked me if I wanted to do it again. And I said, sure, but I think I've run out of ideas. So that's hard. But we thought of some new things that we're going to do. We've already shot one of them where I actually took people to a spot in Speedway that you have passed 50,000 times. You've stopped your car 45,000 of those 50,000, and you probably don't recognize that when you park your car, your tires are touching one of the most historic areas, not only in the city of Indianapolis, but certainly one of the most historic areas in terms of its influence in the future in the sport of auto racing. So I tell exactly what happened at that spot. I show where the spot is, and I show where the landmark is that lets you find it. And that'll be episode number 1. And they're editing it and working on it right now. So I would say probably around the first week of practice is when that will release. And then we will do what I typically do with most things, including this interview, and that is zero preparation, zero thought process, and completely winging it. So I'll come up with a couple of ideas, and then we'll grab a camera and we'll go do it.
I can't believe you actually you're winging this. You seem like you're a pro. You know how to do this, and you and Mark James always seem to amaze me in just your knowledge of the track and IndyCar. I mean, I think there's only one other person that would know probably more than you, and that's I believe that's Donald Davidson.
Well, Donald's the king, man. Listen, I appreciate you saying that, but I'll tell you, Josh, and I'll tell you, Derek, the real trick to it. And Mark, I hate to lump Mark into this category, right? But we're old. So we've been around it enough times that at this point, you just talk about stuff you've actually seen in person. People go, man, that dude knows a lot. And it's like, well, yeah, well, I've been out there 35 times, right? So I've worked on the broadcast. This is hard for me to believe, but this will be my 17th year on the broadcast. So, you do, it's not lost on me, guys. I know that I'm in an incredibly fortunate situation. The only thing that separates me from the vast majority of people who listen to what we do is I was in the right place at the right time. There are other people like you guys that are certainly as skilled and as knowledgeable to be able to do it. So I'm lucky, and I understand that comes with a respect for the position itself, and to know that it carries with it a responsibility to make sure that I hold it with a high regard, and I do. And I appreciate you saying that, because hopefully it comes off that way. I will say that. Hopefully it comes off that we have a respect for what it is that we're able to do.
Oh, definitely. Everything you do for the Indy media, the news, just everything you do is awesome. I've seen you out at a couple events, and you talk to fans, and you don't big time them. You're out there talking to them, relating with them, and I think that's awesome.
Well, let me tell you, brother, you got to big time somebody. You got to be big first, and that ain't me. You know what I mean?
I think they should name a hall after you at North Central. You are Mr. North Central, next to a couple basketball players, but I think you are the biggest thing to come out of North Central.
Wow, man, I appreciate that. That's not true, but it's cool to hear. But Mark Miles went to North Central. Mitch Daniels went to North Central. Bart Peterson went to North Central. Actually, Jared from Subway did too. So, I mean, at least I'm a step ahead of most of them, right? I mean, I got that going for me.
Yeah. Thanks, Jake.
Jake, I know we need to wrap this up, but again, a huge thank you for joining us. Me and Josh both look forward to seeing you out at
Derek,
the track here in the next couple weeks. And I.
What's on the wall behind you?
I am a nerd, so I have the wall behind me. No. These are all of the 164 diecast that I have.
Okay, I can tell now. That's cool.
I have all the IndyCar 164 diecast. This is what's behind me. Yes.
All right, that's cool. I can do.
But again, Jake, I know you got to run. I get 7 a.m. comes early to do your radio show. But again, huge thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you out the track here in the next couple of weeks. And I want to tell the listener, if you run, I want them to buy you the biggest jar of man fun.
No. Listen, I'm not a big guy because I don't like mayonnaise, right? That's the bottom line. That stuff is so nasty. It is the worst condiment ever. It's not only the worst condiment ever invented, it's the worst food ever invented. Like, literally, you can't make egg whites even more disgusting, but you add in like pickle juice and whatever else that devil spawn is that's mixed in with that crap. It's horrible. It's terrible. And apparently on our radio show, I'm going to be forced to eat it, and I have no idea how that came to be, but that's what I do in order to get like the 18 people that listen to us to keep listening. So thank you for mentioning that, and think of me tomorrow. Thoughts and prayers, please.
Jake. Oh, absolutely. We will definitely be listening. But Jake, again, huge thank you for joining us, and we'll see you here in about a couple weeks' time out at IMS.
All right, guys, my pleasure. Have me on anytime.
Thank you.
No problem, man.
Yeah, thank you. Go check him out. Yep, go check him. And like I said, if you run into him out at the picture, Yep. Make sure you buy him or that small, medium, or big size jar there of mayonnaise, and I'm sure he will appreciate it. But getting to our next guest, I know he has been patiently waiting, and I know he's got his jar of mayonnaise to send to Jake Query. Mike from Indy Bets is joining us. Mike, first and foremost, as always, huge thank you for joining us. Barber Motor Sports Park this week. What can you tell us? What you got so far?
Well, first of all, I'm pro mayonnaise. Like, I don't know what he's talking about. Like, mayonnaise is good. Like, mustard, that's a no-go. But mayonnaise, like, I can get behind some mayo. So, but I thought we were going to talk hockey. Jake had his Islanders shirt on. I got my Lightning gear on.
I saw that. I was like, there's an interesting Islanders hat going on there. And now
his Islanders are about to extend the series 3-2. I think there's like 59 seconds left. I was looking at that. I saw his hat. They're about to go fishing like my Lightning are, unfortunately, probably, but you never know. We'll see. But yeah, man, Barber Motor Sports this week. We get back in the action. It's time to build. So I call these two races the bankroll builders for the Indy 500, which is the main betting event of the year for IndyCar. So got to find some winners here. So yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm hoping we get a full menu again of odds on Wednesday night or Thursday morning pre-practice. But yeah, a couple of guys that I've already got my eye on ready to go. Specifically, I think it's time to fade. I think we talked about this last week. Time to fade the Andretti cars. They did great in Long Beach. And if I can get some juicy matchups or some matchups early, I think they go right back to the, fourth team in line. McLaren, super strong here. Paddle Ward's probably going to be your favorite. Maybe not. Maybe he'll be right behind Newgarden. So if we get a good number on Paddle, I'll be jumping on that. I think all the McLaren cars, and I think one guy that I think could be a long shot that might get double-digit odds pre-practice is Rossi. Rossi is a stud at this track. He was a stud at this track with Andretti. And he was a stud last couple of years with McLaren. I think he's a sneaky guy for a good top 3 odd or good win odds. And then, I'll be looking at the practice times of the Penske cars. Power's been good here. He got screwed over in qualifying last year, and I think he must have passed. I think he went from like back of the pack all the way to 4th or 5th, if I recall on that. I'll have to check the stats on that, but he's really good here. So Award, Rossi, and then the Ganassi guy is Palou. This is a Palou track for sure. Palou's got 2 top 3s in the last 2 years. Won the race in 2021. 2022, I believe Palou had another top 3. So I think he's somebody. He was second to Award last year. So I don't put too much stock in the VK poll. I think that was more of a fluky kind of deal in a tire situation. So Palou, Award, Rossi as a long shot, and then I'll probably pick and choose a McLaughlin or Power bet. But those are the guys I think I got my eye on this week. But this race is starting at the front, so I'm going to save a lot of my money for Sunday.
Sounds like a good plan, Mike. What do you think the odds are that somebody from outside of the top 3 wins this race? I know me and Derik talked about it earlier that the average starting spot for the person that wins this is between 1 and 3. What do you think?
Less than 5%, man. I think that's why the last thing I said there is in this track, IndyCar, they qualify all within a second of each other. Funny things can happen in qualifying. I think you got to wait. You got to wait until we have the qualifying results and then see what the bets are. Now, the whole point of making bets pre-qualifying is trying to get the pole sitter at a better number, right? Rossi's going to be 14, 15, 16 to 1, my guess. Maybe somewhere low double digits is what I think, 10 to 15. And then the point of making that bet is if he qualifies first, second, or third and puts himself in a position to win the race, his odds are going to go from that double digits down to like 3 to 1, 2 to 1. So you're trying to hit those value bets, and then at that point you can bet on the other guys surrounding him, and you can pretty much lock in a profit for the race. So that's the strategy at play with the pre-qualifying betting. But No, this track is just historically the way this track is set up. I don't know if it's just that, you don't see cautions because there's a ton of runoff areas. Like, it's not like a street course where, you these guys bump a little bit, they're going into a wall. There's a bunch of sand, bunch of grass. I don't think there's very few walls these guys are going to hit here. So most of the time the cars keep going, cycle somebody at the back, but you don't see these yellows. So 2-stop race is going to win it. And the guys out front just have a huge advantage. They can gap the rest of the field. So yeah, I think the winner comes probably from whoever qualifies, top 5, moreover top 3. So this is a good race where if the sports books don't know that, like we do, they might give us the same kind of top 3 odds they'd give for St. Pete or Long Beach, where we know guys can run some fuel strategy or maybe some cautions can cycle things through. But in this race, if we can get same thing, we can take the top 3 guys to qualify and bet them all top 3, and you probably can make money that's just as simple as that if you wanted to.
Okay.
So hopefully we get some matchups.
Somebody that we touched on, or I mentioned, somebody that I mentioned when our previous guest on, Mike, was Mr. Consistency this year, Marcus Ericsson. Is that somebody that you're going to put a little bit of stock into this weekend, or are you just going to wait until the 500, obviously, with him being the defending champion?
Yeah, no, obviously I was anti-Ericsson from the start of the year. I mean, he's got some good starting positions in this race in history, but he's never finished well. He's always, he's barely top 10 last 2 times out since we had the aero screen, since he's, been a contender in a Ganassi car. So no, I'm going to stay on the Ericsson fade train. Now that could change. He qualifies, he puts it in the fast 6 and qualifies in the top 3 or 4. Then I'll have to reassess that and bet him on Sunday, but he will not be on my pre-card for sure. It'll be, like I said, I'll be sticking to outside of Palou. It'll be the McLaren drivers and maybe a Penske or 2. And I think that if I were picking the Penske's, Power would be my first choice, right, closely followed by McLaughlin, who's done nice at this track. And obviously he's showing more and more speed as he gets more and more experience. Newgarden seems to struggle here a little bit, but he's in a Penske car. Anybody in a Penske car can win any race, most races.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, absolutely, and they actually have a track record of that for sure. Mike, I think people will be anticipating, anxiously awaiting this weekend the release of the any plan between you and Tony Donahue to do a Twitter space before Sunday?
Yeah, no, we've been doing the Twitter spaces. We had a bunch of people on last time on the last race, which worked out. Worked out well. We weren't on. Well, we mentioned Kirkwood. He wasn't on either of our cards. Yeah, we'll do a Twitter spaces Sunday before the race. I don't know if this is a noon race or a 3:00 race. I haven't even looked yet, but 3:00 race. Yeah. So, man, probably. I think the last time we did it around noon, 1:00. We might try to get it out, earlier. But we'll keep an eye on Twitter. Keep an eye on Burnout Sports. Keep an eye on my Twitter, Tony's Twitter. We usually just start texting throughout the weekend, and we figure out what time both of our schedules work, and we'll obviously be tweeting out our betting cards and as we go, and we'll do the spaces and try to get that out for people to listen so they can make some wagers heading into the race, and we'll cross our fingers that the sports books have some time for us and give us a bunch of different options to bet. F1's back, so that hurts, I think, a little bit, but there's nothing else really going on. The draft will be pretty much done, and sportsbooks can focus their attention maybe back to IndyCar.
Speaking of the draft, Mike, I couldn't help but seeing behind you. You're a Gator fan. Where's AR-15 going on Thursday? Is he gonna go? Is he gonna come to the Colts, or you think he's gonna get chosen before that?
It sounds like he's gonna be a Colt, and. Yeah, I am a Florida fan. I went to the University of Florida, so I'm a huge big Gator. I don't know. I think Richardson. He if he turns out to be a superstar, I'm going to be a little annoyed because he really didn't do anything for Florida. We we didn't get any national titles out of him. He definitely doesn't have the record that a Tebow had or a Leak had. So he's got a cannon for an arm. I've been to a couple games, watched him in person. He's kind of like a Lamar Jackson kind of guy, but he's also kind of a one read guy. And sometimes he throws that cannon a little too hard when he should have a touch pass. But yeah, I think he goes to the Colts. I know I saw pictures of the Colts playing in Gainesville multiple times. So who knows? But he could end up being special. He's a smart kid. At least he's definitely got a good head on his shoulders. He seemed like he's a good guy in Florida. So we'll see. You want him or no? You're at Colts. You guys are
Mike.
Colts guys, right?
All I'm gonna Mike. All I'm gonna say is thank you. Because made that same comparison today of Anthony Richardson to Lamar Jackson, and a certain somebody told me I was wrong. So validating that.
He's bigger than Lamar.
A certain somebody said I was wrong.
And as much as I hate to say this, Tebow and Leak had a great coach in Urban Meyer, but and AR didn't have anybody really to throw to or do anything. I am personally hoping that we get CJ Stroud, but that's just me. But if we get Anthony Richardson, I'll welcome him with opening arms.
I'd rather have Stroud than Richardson. The thing about Richardson is he gets hurt. Like there were a lot of games we lost because the coaches would not let him run. And he had a bad ankle, he had a busted ribs, and like when he was at full strength, Florida upset some people, and we were in some games we probably, we shouldn't have been in. I was betting on him every weekend, and I watched pretty much every single game. So there were times where the coaches had handcuffs on him because he got injured. So that's definitely a worry. Like those NFL guys hit, the SEC hits pretty hard, but the NFL hits a little bit harder. So I'd be worried about his health, and he is definitely a one read kind of scramble guy. And yeah, I'd make the Lamar. Most of the quarterbacks, the Lamar, there's a difference between like a Lamar and a Kyler. Kyler's a tiny little guy. Richardson's a big dude. So, but he does have injuries. So I don't know. It should be interesting. I am going to watch to see where he goes. And yeah, I've obviously made a lot of friends in the Indianapolis area with the IndyCar betting stuff, and a lot of people that follow me. So I'll become a little bit. I always root for the Gators in pro football. I don't have a pro team. It's usually whoever my money's on. So I'll root for Florida guys.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Mike, good stuff as always. In a week's time, and hopefully has more shekels in there thanks to you. But again, huge as always to come on here, and hopefully everything goes well this weekend, and maybe you can retire.
Yeah, I doubt it. That'd be nice though, one of these days. But yeah, good luck, man. We'll keep an eye on the Twitter. Everything's out there, and hopefully we'll get back on our winning ways. We had a little hiccup with Kirkwood. Luckily, somebody won $26,000. But we'll see if we can find that winner this week for everybody. Maybe it's Rossi Pillow Award. I don't think any of them are pulling you in 26 G's. It's going to be a big bet. They're not a 40 or 26 to 1 Kirkwood. That's not happening at Barber. That might happen at Indy or someplace else, but we'll see if we can make some money. So good luck.
Good luck. Thank you.
Yep. Good luck, Mike. Thanks as always, and we'll talk again in about a week or so. So good stuff there. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter, especially if you are in the betting aspect of IndyCar and you want to win some money. Highly suggest following him, and he will help you do so for sure. We have come down to the last few portions of the show. First and foremost, I want to thank our sponsors that make it possible for us to bring this podcast to you on a weekly basis. Always Ready 1776. If you're looking for patriotic apparel, headwear, anything else, go check out alwaysready1776.com. And when you get to the checkout portion of the website, make sure you use that promo code that you see up on your screen, push to pass, for 10% off of your order. always ready 1776.com. And then also Get 'em Associates Incorporated for all of your home design, build, and remodeling needs. It's Get 'em Associates Incorporated. Go check out their website at getem.com. And then as you see it down at the bottom, make sure you use that promo code as well. Push to pass for $250 off any design service. A huge thank you both to Always Ready 1776 and Get 'em Associates Incorporated. Now we'll get to the news section before we get on out of here. Josh, the first news item I think we have, we were talking with Jake earlier. The first testing results came out this week from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I know that's probably awful hard for a few people to read. I'll run down some of the drivers that I thought had a good test this past week. Obviously, Joseph Newgarden found himself the top of the speed charts at 227 miles an hour. He turned 115 laps. Somebody we talked about as well, Connor Daly found himself second with a lap of 227 miles an hour as well. He turned over 145 laps. Jake touched on this earlier. Stephen Wilson come in sixth fastest at 225 miles an hour, and he turned 107 laps. The highest rookie in this was Augusta Campino. He was 27th quickest at 222 miles an hour, and he only turned 38 laps. So between the 34 drivers that we had test, Josh, there was over 3,108 laps turned. So definitely the anticipation, I think, to say is definitely growing there for the 500, as we are only one race away from kicking off the month of May. Anything you want to add to the test this week before we move on?
That's a staggering amount of laps to get in on one day. One day they got 3,100 laps in. That's staggering to me that they were able to get out there and have no, as Jake was saying, they had no problems, no wrecks, nothing, nobody hit the wall, anything like that, and that's staggering. I can only imagine how much data they would have been able to get had they not got the second day rained out. Looking forward to it. We get past Barber. I don't want to jump past Barber just yet, but looking forward to May. It's going to be fun. This is the first year I'll be credentialed to be able to go around and talk to the drivers and get their feel on how they're gonna do this week, this May, especially with RC going to be in the we'll hold on to that, but RC being confirmed that he's going to be racing this time, trying to make the field. It's going to be a fun time. I can't wait. Those lap times bring good promise to me that we're going to have a great month of May.
And just as you talked about the aforementioned RC Anderson, our next story is we were able to finally confirm this past week that RC Anderson is going to team up with Able Motorsports and be the 34th entry in the 2023 Indianapolis 500. Able Motorsports, with a shop located less than 1 mile south of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, has confirmed the number 55 Chevrolet powered entry will be in the 107th running of the Indianapolis 500, presented by Gamebridge and their driver, the aforementioned RC Enerson. Found in Louisville, Kentucky, Able Motorsports has been a mainstay of the NTT IndyCar Series ladder system for years, most recently expanding to the Indy Next by Firestone in 2022. Quote, "We've always envisioned the opportunity to enhance our position in the business world by leveraging the unique intersection that racing has with our brand," said Bill Able, CEO of Able Construction Company. I can't think of a better way of bringing that to life with our many customers, partners, and associates than showcasing what we can do right here at 16th and Georgetown in Speedway. I'm just so thankful for this opportunity. Able Motorsports is comprised of veteran NTT IndyCar Series engineers and crew that began preparing the number 50 entry for Enerson in early January, with a focus on kicking off the month of May in strong fashion when practice starts May 16th. Quote, "It's going to be a thrill watching RC pilot the number 50 Chevrolet around the speedway, and we believe it sets a very positive tone of what's to come for Able Motorsports in the future," said John Brenner, team manager. As has been speculated, we are evaluating a full-time entry for the 2024 IndyCar season, and our group is committed to building the foundation needed for sustainable long-term success in motorsports. A huge thanks to IndyCar and Chevrolet for their efforts in making this happen. Enerson, 26, who led the Indy Next by Firestone Oval points during his only season in full-time competition, has made 5 previous NTT IndyCar Series starts. The Floridian keeps himself race-ready as the chief driving instructor for the Lucas Oil School of Racing. He will attempt to make his first start in, quote, the greatest spectacle in racing. I can't thank Bill and John enough for this opportunity to be back at the 500, Enerson said. In the works for many months, the Able Motorsports crew is top-notch and loaded with experience well beyond my years. I'm honored to carry the banner for this organization during the month of May, and while it's going to be a few more weeks until we go on the track, I expect we'll be up to speed quickly at the Speedway. I just so looking forward to climbing behind the wheel of an NTT IndyCar Series machine at IMS once again. So cool. The Able Motorsports number 50 Chevrolet is the 34th entry for the Indianapolis 500, assuring bump day for qualifying for the 33 starting spots available for the world's most prestigious auto race. So again, huge congratulations, Josh. I think is in order, obviously, for driver analyst here on the show, friend of the show, RC Enerson, who we will be able to see during the month of May, and hopefully he is able to get that number 50 entry into the Indianapolis 500.
Definitely excited for RC. It's going to be really cool having him back on next week. I can ask him all kinds of questions, how this ride came together, what his expectations are. Hopefully I can get him, if he's going to have shirts, I can get him to get me a couple 2Xs, in different colors, so that I can support RC out at the track as I'm out there. And hopefully he makes the track, makes the 500 field, and we can root him on, and hopefully he finishes great. And this will be the start of a great, prosperous, more adventurous career for him. I know he's already been racing, but hopefully this will be more of a launch pad for him, so he can maybe get a full-time ride somewhere in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait to speak with RC next week and just hear how this all took place, went down, and we can start focusing in not only on the Grand Prix, but the 500 as well. Josh, one last thing to get to. I think we're both excited to see this on Thursday, but don't forget the CW. For people here in Indianapolis, if you go to Wish TV Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 Central, check out the new documentary series, 100 Days to Indy, week 1. Can't wait for this. Again, Wish TV is going to be carrying it in its entirety, and I do believe that if you go to the CW streaming app, on Friday, they will have this uploaded and ready to go. Definitely can't wait for this. And when we get to our closer, Josh, you touched on the important words from one car owner, David Letterman, talking about this. We'll play this right before we get on out of here. But definitely excited. Can't wait to see what this first episode 1 has in store.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Can't wait. I'll be tuning in to watch it on Vice or CW. It's going to be exciting. I would imagine it's going to be a build up to how the race is ran, and Doug Bowles over the last several years has made several improvements to the track, different stuff. He's also done a series on going behind the scenes, just like Jake has, and showing off different aspects of the track. So I anticipate Doug being an integral part. Maybe he'll give us a little bit more behind the scenes of how he chose that carb day, and maybe he's going to change his mind after he listened to my podcast, my rant a couple weeks ago about let's get into the future. I love the past, but let's get to the future and let's get some better bands out there.
Yeah, good stuff. Make sure if Doug Bowles is listening, go check that out, because I think you will definitely agree with what Josh had to say rather. But Josh, I think that does it for this episode. Make sure you are checking Twitter this weekend for all of your coverage there of the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix. We'll be bringing it to you in its entirety. And then also to check on Sunday, we'll give our race picks. So first, huge thank you to Jake Query for joining us. And then as always, a huge thank you to Mike for joining us as well. So for Derik and Josh over there on the other side, we will bid you a fair adieu, but we'll be back in 1 week's time to discuss what just took place at Barber, and then to turn the page, flip the month to the month of May and everything that is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So until next week, so long, everybody.
Have I been cued? It's my first day in show business. Okay, I need one of these.
I got you.
Okay. What you need to understand about the Indianapolis 500, you're minutes away from watching an event that causes the hair on the back of your hands to stand up. They fire the engines, and suddenly what was an audible hum becomes a violent shriek of thunder. This is no exaggeration. If you win the Indianapolis 500, you're going to be immortal.
100 Days to Indy. Documentary series premieres Thursday, April 27th. Free next day on the CW app.